Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'd like to start by thanking everyone for joining us today to our tourism panel. On behalf of the members of Mount St. Vincent University Business and Tourism Department, I'd like to begin for welcoming us to this biannual gathering. As a descendant of our settlers, I acknowledge and pay respects to the indigenous people of the land from which we host today's meeting, the Llanu Mi'kmaq people. I live and work on the ancestral, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I also pay respect to the knowledge embedded in the indigenous custodian of the land of their elders past, present, and future. My name is Jacob Sheffer, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. For today's panel, we're going to ask a specific question to each one of our panelists, and then we're going to ask several general questions where I'll assign a lead, and all panelists are encouraged to give their input. If you have something to add throughout any of the questions, feel free to contribute in any way or time. I'd just like to give a quick introduction to our panelists that are joining us today. We have Kylie Toner, National Sales and Marketing Coordinator, InnVest Hotels. Geoff Doane, General Manager, Tim Hortons. Jennifer Shebib, General Manager, Eastling Center, Charlottetown. And Mike Gatherall, co-owner, Gatherall Boat Stores Limited. Without further ado, I'll just get some introductions. We'll hear from our panelists, actually. We'll start by having you tell us a little bit about your organization, your position, and what that's like kind of on a day-to-day. So we will start with Jennifer. Just a reminder to turn your mic on, Jennifer. I think you're muted right there.
Really good start.
Perfect, all good. We got you loud and clear.
Thank you very much for the invitation to sit in on the Career Week and be a part of this panel today. As you said, I'm the general manager for the Eastlink Center in Charlottetown. I joined the team here in July of last year after the previous general manager had been there for 25 years and had retired. I came from Cape Breton, where I was working in the industry as event attraction and consultant on the tourism and destination development side. Starting my role in the Eastlink Center, Charlottetown, it is the premier facility and destination within Charlottetown. And so the goal would be to look at attracting major events and hosting our annual events that we would do on a regular basis. And that's what we're looking to do now over the next 3 years, and strategically position ourselves in the Atlantic Canada market as a leading sports and entertainment destination. That's my task and challenge and opportunity, all in the same thing. So,
sounds very exciting. Thank you very much. We'll go to Mike now. Mike, would you like to speak on what you do?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Gatherall, one of the owners of Gatherall's Puffin and Whale Watch here in Newfoundland. So we're a little ways away from you guys. We've been around since 1984. So for a little while, it's a family-run business. We visit an ecological reserve, and over the past close to 40 years, we've developed a national and international marketplace. We work closely with quite a few tour operators from outside of the province. Really, that was one of the big things. To really grow the industry. And so that's what we've been focusing on, especially for the last 25 years.
Perfect, thank you very much. And last but not least, we'll go to Geoff Doane.
Everybody, I'm Geoff. I've been working with Tim Hortons for most of my life. My parents actually opened up the business, and I went to school and took business at UPI, and now I am general managing the business and taking on the owner mindset. As most of you know, it's a food and beverage company. There's over 3,000 restaurants across Canada, known for their coffee and community involvement. My role specifically, I look at different audits that come in. So there's like a food safety audit, there's a coffee audit, there's a cleanliness audit, and like this odor company, they come in and they surprise us and they just do an audit whenever, can be any day of the week, which keeps us on our toes and is very challenging. But then besides that, it's dealing with the food in the business, like the food coming in, cost of goods sold, 2 inventories a week, and then ordering, making sure we have enough food to make it to our next truck, Then we look at like, how much are we going through? How much are we throwing at the end of the night? And then the LTOs coming in. We got like, for example, a recent one was the Tim Biebs, the Timbits that Justin Bieber came out with. And, you know, that was really challenging too, because the first week we went through so many Timbits, and then the excitement kind of dropped off. So we really had to juggle our production. Probably the most time my job is spent on is HR, like dealing with the team, training the team, hiring, coaching, and firing when need to. And then Tim Hortons deals with a lot of community events like Camp Day, Smile Cookie Week. We did the orange donut for Indigenous raising. Then there was a Special Olympic fundraiser and community cleanups and stuff like that. So yeah, it's busy, but it's rewarding and fulfilling.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Geoff. So we'll just get into some of the individual questions. We'll start with Jennifer. Jennifer, you have been quoted as playing a key leadership role in guiding one of Atlantic Canada's most comprehensive and versatile sports and entertainment operations. In your opinion, what are the most important qualities of a leader in today's event management sector?
A great question. Thanks, Jacob. So just to add to the introductory, the Eastling Center, Charlottetown, is a complex that has an NHL arena surface, 17,000 square foot. We have a trade center space that's 42,000 square foot, meeting space, storage space. We have a primary tenant of Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, so Charlottetown Islanders. And we've just now taken on board a new partnership with a new basketball franchise, the Charlottetown Power. They'll start next season. Because of COVID, they've had to push their schedule. So in addition to that, we also have the event grounds, which is the Charlottetown Event Ground. So as a very large complex that is positioned in the center of Charlottetown, yes, I have perhaps have been quoted as saying that strategically as a leader now in charge and asked to help direct how we are going to become the strongest and most innovative sports and entertainment destination within Charlottetown, and also, you know, to compete collectively within Atlantic Canada. I think that there's a couple different qualities that are required. I am new to the environment here in Charlottetown, but not new to the industry as a whole. So having worked in the tourism industry over 25 years within the hospitality industry in all facets of tourism, specifically hotels, cruise ships, and meetings and convention space. I think within the event side of things, and also equally with leaders across all different sectors, that communication would definitely be a very key quality that is required in terms of navigating and managing the number of different teams that you may have to work with on a regular basis, stakeholders, key partners, staff at different levels. I think it's important that the expectations and communications and what the goal of the organization is very key, and everybody's on the same page when it comes to that. As a new person into this facility, I've done a lot of listening and understanding operationally how the teams have been managing their process and their procedures, and how they've been handling the events that they've been hosting in the past. And then we've started to look at how do we evaluate how we're going to host new business in the future, and what does that look like? So helping to engage the staff and understand what each of those individual skill sets are and what their role is and how they can contribute to the overall success of the organization, I think is really key. There's an element of empathy and integrity there as a part of that. And those are also key values that we look to see in all organizations, I think. And I learned that very early on when I worked for Disney. And confidence in what they're doing. And I think the amount of time that they have, but also the willing to learn too, in terms of cross skill sets of different roles within an organization. I think it's really important that everybody really understands what each role is, but that at any time, if they need to be a part or take on a different role, that may be in a short term, that they're open to that, and that there's an element of professional development there that's a part of that experience. So people are key when it comes to the strength and success of an organization. And I think if we look at those specific qualities that allow you to create a very successful team, that you will be very successful in what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to deliver in terms of guest experience, employee experience, the overall service and delivery, and the exceptional level of standards that you're trying to achieve within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Like the knowingness of people and knowing where to put them and stuff like that, knowing the best way to go, and the communication aspect is relative throughout all sectors, but even more so when you talk about the tourism industry itself. So moving on, I'd like to ask Mike a question now. So Mike, the word pivot has been used extensively during COVID, especially. Can you describe how your company has pivoted in any way, shape, or form during COVID for both 2020 and the 2021 seasons?
Yeah, well, I guess one of the things for your students to recognize is, although the word pivot is really came into play for the last 2 years, if you're in this industry, it's nothing new. You have to be nimble. That's one of the really big things. You have to be adaptable. You have to be open to change. You have to be flexible. Particularly as you start out in your career in this business, you may find that you're in one room or one area of operations, but you're acquiring skills and everything else to move into another one, and that will serve you very well. I think your question regarding pivoting is, Maria had mentioned, we've been around since 1984, as I said, almost 40 years. And we have an immediate competitor adjacent to us. Both of us, work and compete in that very same marketplace. It's very tight competition. But faced with what happened in 2020, essentially the shutdown of our national and our international markets, which for our operations account for about 90% of our revenue. The idea of pivoting and offering new products to local resident markets and so on, that just didn't make any sense. So how we pivoted was actually the two operators came together and shared resources. So rather than running multiple vessels in and out, recognizing that our demand was going to be significantly impacted, we selected one vessel, we selected one base of operations. We were able to retain our own crews so that we maintained our staff, which was very important, in our own identities. And provided the service to our clients, to our resident market, which, albeit as small, it's still very important to us. And it was essential that we demonstrate to people, our residents, our resolve to continue on. And also that, in the face of COVID, there were still things you could do. And it did come as quite a shock, certainly within the local market and with many of our operators that we deal with, that we did partner up in such a way. People were very, very surprised by it. But again, it's what you have to do. You have to maintain that flexibility. You have to be open to doing things like that. Sometimes you bite your tongue. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride. All of these things. Don't be too prideful. Be prepared to bite your tongue and swallow your pride from time to time, because you have to look at the long term. If we only looked at the immediate 2021, we focused, we got to operate and maintain, just as we've always done. Yeah, we could have done that, and we would have chewed up considerable financial reserves. So by pivoting and being flexible, by being open to working with our competition, both companies were actually able to come through 2020 and 2021. I wouldn't say relatively unscathed, but pretty much. Both of the companies did not have to take on tremendous amounts of debt, like many of our other operators did. We had a lot of operators in Newfoundland that are kind of second-tier competitors for us. Most of them did not operate in 2020, and some of them did not operate in 2021 either. So that's really important there to recognize that. So yeah, very important to be able to pivot. It's nothing new. They might think it's a new term, but it's not. It's been around. Maria invited me onto this panel. I think she's probably the prof for some of you folks. And I know from her experience, she's had to pivot multiple times as well. But it's just a new direction. One door closes, another one opens up. All those wonderful things. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great story. We've seen so many different organizations throughout all sectors take impacts throughout COVID. So the way you guys were able to, bounce back or redirect things in a new direction, keep afloat and keep business going. It's a true testament why you've been around since '84. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, since for a little while. Not so much hair left on the top of the head. So
for sure.
40 years in industry will do it to you. This other guy, Geoff over here, he's going to lose his hair in about 10 years.
Aren't we all? So Mr. Geoff Doane, question for you. Can you tell us about your experiences with opening / operating a Tim Hortons franchise, how that kind of came about, and what was involved with the process, and is there anything that kind of best prepared you for these experiences?
Yeah, so the two Tims that were open, first was 93, so I would have been a year old, so I wasn't involved in that one at all. And then the second one was 2013. I was actually in school till 2015 on Prince Edward Island, so I wasn't directly involved with it, but it was open on December 23rd. So I was at the grand opening, and I was there a prior week before everything got open. And, I worked very closely with my father, who found the location and opened it up. So I do have a little bit of information here. The main thing is location. Like, is there enough demand? Is there enough highway traffic? Is it accessible to whoever your target audience is? And then for Tim Hortons, they look at cannibalization. So there's a bunch of different owner groups. And if I want to open up a Tim Hortons that's closer to Brent's Tim Hortons, then it will look at like what customers am I taking that he has already to our new location, because it's closer and more convenient and stuff like that. So it is a pretty detailed process for finding, but location is probably the first thing you look at. And then you kind of figure out, your financing. You have to have some backing or some equity built already that you can put up as collateral, that you're going to come through with your promise and that you're going to make money in the long run. And then you work with your partner. So in this case, our partner is the franchisors at Tim Hortons. You work with the franchise team to follow their guidelines, build the actual structure, and build your team. So we had a manager 2013 that we brought over from our other location, along with a couple key pieces to start a culture of people that learn the business and really bring up the business together. So the best prepared thing you could do is look at already existing locations and what can you learn from that, and talk to people that are already established in the industry. Use your resources. There's already people that have done this before. Don't feel bad about reaching out and find and know information that what helped them. You might learn more than you think. And then the operation side of running Tim Hortons, it starts kind of what Jennifer was saying with the right team. Like your business is your people. If you have one bad egg, it's going to spoil the bunch. You look at best practices for maximizing sales. Is the equipment up to standard? And is the food freshly correct, stocked? Know your numbers. What drive-through times, productivity rates, operations expenses. There's a lot that goes into it, but you have to know all your numbers and know what you can do to improve them, and then train your team to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, perfect. That's great, Geoff. Those are great points. Location being accessible is always great, but like you said, like your team is your core, and you build from there. And you have if you have success there, and you have some people you can rely on there, then you can build from the ground up super easily. So, or a lot easier than intended. So perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah. We're just going to get into some of the general questions now. So I'll just get Mike to start on this one. So the question is, and then after Mike is done, all of you can jump in if you'd like. So for this question, how did you get into the tourism industry and why did you stay?
Well, we kind of got into it by hook or by crook. Back in 1984, I was still in high school. We were looking at different options. I was planning on continuing on secondary education, which I did. I did a degree in naval architecture and also did some business courses at Memorial University here in Newfoundland. But at the same time, we were looking at different opportunities. The fishing industry at the time was dwindling. Had changed dramatically over the years. I had a brother, slightly older, who was interested in that. But we, our family has very much a very solid marine or maritime foundation. So we looked at opportunities here in our backyard of what we could do. And, we started doing some tours kind of on an not necessarily on an ad hoc basis, but kind of, we, very soft launch, sample the market. We didn't start with a multi-million-dollar operation. You start small, and over the course of the season, you learn things, you grow, you adapt. And the next year we came back, it was a little more professional, a little more polished. The year after that, you recognize that, hey, there's bigger market for this. How do we capitalize on it? So then you set about to capitalize on it. Then you realize you need more infrastructure, and it just kind of becomes a ladder that you climb up. So it's you grow the market, you grow the infrastructure, you grow the market, grow the infrastructure, and so on. To Geoff's point, location is paramount. No matter whether it's a Tim Hortons, whether you want to open a franchise, whether you want to start a hotel, whether you want to start a kayaking operation or hiking or anything else, location is very important. It can't be understated. For us, we're very close to St. John, so that means we had an international airport within 45 minutes drive. We had a fairly large resident market on which to start the base. We were close to the hotels, we're close to the convention center, and so on. If we were to move our operation an extra even 15 to 20 minutes away, further outside, we could actually start to reduce, or we would see a reduction in the traffic corresponding to that. We've had lots of competitors that have come and gone that thought, hey, look, Gatheralls have got a great boat tour going, and Bay Bulls, they do a lot of business. Oh, they're making money. Here's another place, looks good, we'll start one there. And they get about 2 years in, and then they just come off a cliff because in some regards, their location may have been nice. There was no immediate competition, but they were too far from the traffic source. So to Geoff's point, location, you can't underestimate it, no matter what business you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And our other panelists have to jump in on this.
Yeah, I can jump in for a second, Jacob. Yeah, so, I mean, I'd never really considered myself part of the tourist industry, but, after this invitation, it does make a lot of sense. We are the closest Tim's to Peggy's Cove, and the fluctuation of sales from, early June to probably late September is high. Like, it's extremely different than the winter months. We have a lot less hours being paid through payroll, and we noticed that there's a lot of diversity, people coming in, and I mean, what we really try to do is make sure that they feel like they're comfortable when entering the restaurant. It's familiar. We try and stay friendly and offer directions when needed, and just try and make them feel welcome. And and then, why do you join a company? For me, it was like, what's their visions and values, and like a big part of Tim Hortons is like being involved with the community, and I figure that that's a really good reason to be in business, that you're not just there to make money, but you're also there to like make a difference.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I think they're on both accounts because, so I started working in the tourism industry because one of my first jobs was at Peggy's Cove. I grew up on the South Shore in St. Margaret's Bay, and I always wanted to travel and work in the service industry. And it was about understanding, how do I do that? How do I learn from that? And so I started grassroots. I started at Peggy's Cove, and then I worked within the city, and I was very fortunate to get a position and a seat as part of the program. And it escalated from there. I ultimately went to work for Walt Disney World, and for me, that was the gold star. I was very excited about being at the parks and back to values and goals and organization. And I learned as much as I could in a short period of time about how to be a part of the stage, how to be a part of the show, what components of that is front house, back house. What does that look like in terms of everybody participating and delivering an experience? And watching them and being a part of delivering, the entertainment and being part of that whole experience was fantastic. It was probably one of the best experiences of my life after I left university. And things took a direction from there where I was offered a position to be able to work with Disney Cruise Lines and open the cruise ships with them. So again, understanding and learning and being a part of a team and the dynamics of that, and always staying true to, I want to travel. I'd want to work in the service industry. I'd love to be able to do that all around the world. And what impact will that have? I believe tourism is everybody's business at the end of the day, whether you're in the service industry, whether you're the teller at you're offering a service at the bank, whether you're in the McDonald's drive-through and she has a name badge on that says, that's servicing coffee. I think as part of a company or organization that works within a destination, everybody has a role to play in attracting and promoting the destination and encouraging people to come back to that destination on a regular basis. And whether that's a cruise ship, whether that's a park, whether that's Cape Breton Island, Charlottetown, Newfoundland, which I haven't spent a lot of time at yet, but I hope to. I think that it's constantly changing. So that's the appeal factor for me, that I can travel, that I can meet new people, that I can meet different kinds of diversified groups, and I can take away from that and use that as part of my experience and what I'm doing today. And that's why I continue to do it, because it's constantly innovative and changing, and there's always new opportunities. And so COVID, when we talk about pivot, I think pivot for me was, how do we adapt now that we can't host events anymore? What does that look like? And do we start to work with other partners in the industry so that we can pool resources to understand how we can float until we start to attract events again? So I think for me, that was a huge opportunity. And in working with all stakeholders and partners to understand what we could do in order to be innovative at a time when perhaps an event or a service may have been 10 years and so it needs a fresh look. And what does that look like? And who wants to be a part of that? And we are hosting Canada Games in February. So I'd be remiss in saying that I am very excited to be part of an organization that's a venue partner for this island and hosting Canada Games. After the last time they hosted was in 91. And I was not a part of the experience in 87 in Cape Breton. So I'm very excited about all the changes and all of the renovations and all the work that has been in the planning for the last 2 years. And now I've joined as a new member, and we're just really excited about reopening, what that looks like in post-COVID environment, and how do we welcome the world to the island as part of the Canada Games. So yes, that's the whole reason why I'm in this business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, super interesting stuff. Great that you were able to do like travel the world to do what you love also, and like you found that, and you that kind of led you somewhere else. And you mentioned the thing of tourism is everybody's business as well, which I loved. And you kind of you found your way and you made yourself to a position where you get to making a direct impact at a place that that means a lot to you. So perfect. That's amazing. Congratulations. So before we get on with some of the general questions, we are going to hear from the last one of our panelists today, Miss Kylie Toner. We'll get her to tell her a bit about herself, what she does, what her organization is like, and then we'll get her to answer one of these questions. So we'll hear from Miss Kylie Toner now.
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry I'm late to the party. I completely forgot about the time difference. I saw noon and I just assumed it was Ontario time. So sorry about that. So essentially my job is I'm the National Sales and Marketing Coordinator for InnVest Hotels. We are the largest hotel owner across Canada with over 80 hotels in our portfolio. Many of which are comfort inns on the East Coast. You might be familiar with some of them in your neighborhood. And then we've got, a handful of other properties, some Fairfields, a few other Marriott locations, some Homewood Suites, just a big variety. So really, I work with a sales team of about 9 people. No one works in the office. We're all remote. So I am firmly planted at my desk at the top of my stairs in Niagara Falls. So I get to work daily on promotional material for all of these properties. So I interact with various brands. I touch base with all of our general managers on a regular basis. And I'm also responsible for creating all of the promotional material for our sellers. So, whether they're going on a sales pitch trip or sales blitz to Saskatchewan, or they're off to Quebec, I am the one creating all of the promotional material for them. As well as putting together, slide decks or promotional material for their travel trade booths or, meeting professional booths, that sort of thing. I also help them with a lot of administrative pieces. So helping them manage CRM and our customer database. Yeah, I am very much responsible for stocking everyone's toolkit so that they can accomplish their jobs. And it's been a very strange journey getting me here. I've had a lot of different careers in the tourism and hospitality industry. I graduated from the Mount in 2012 now, having worked as a tour guide at the Halifax Citadel. I worked as an event manager at Pier 21 for a summer. So these were all some of my co-op experiences. I also spent some time on the front desk of the Delta Barrington, which I believe is now just the Barrington. And then when I moved to Niagara, I completed the wine business management program, a love for wine, which grew out of the tourism program at the Mount on a trip to the Annapolis Valley. So yeah, I've just kind of fallen in love with the Niagara region and the tourism experiences and offerings that are located here. But my big driving force is community connection. So, whether I'm in Halifax or I'm in Niagara, I really love to be just so connected to the community and sharing those experiences with people who are visiting the area or who are just, looking to experience what we've got here. So I spent some time working as a sales and marketing manager for an oyster house. So if you're familiar with the Tide and Boar in Moncton, the Tide and Vine is owned by their daughter and her husband. So that's where I spent the last, I guess it was 4 years. Then of course, COVID, no one really needs a catering manager amidst COVID. So there was an opportunity for me to kind of regroup and figure out what I wanted to be doing. And I found it. So I'm really pleased to have found this position. Actually, the role was shared on LinkedIn by also another Mount alum. So never underestimate the power of your connections on LinkedIn and, the network that you build while you're a student and after school as well. And yeah, that's kind of my spiel.
That's good. Perfect. If you don't mind, Kylie, I'll get right into your question right now. So since graduating from the Mount, you are a Mount grad, as you mentioned. Can you tell us how about you transition from being like a student into kind of the role as a national sales and marketing coordinator at InnVest? And how have you those previous roles in the industry informed you on what to do, and how's that shaped you and, able to get you to where you are at today?
funnily enough, it is kind of like motto of the millennial, I think, and that is fake it till you make it. I know that sounds absolutely terrible, but oftentimes, you know, you're kind of afraid entering a new role. You want to take on more responsibility. You want to prove yourself. So you just buck up and you get it done, and, you know, you put your best foot forward and you try your hand at whatever you can to contribute to your business or to your company in a meaningful way. And ultimately you end up developing that skill set. So that's something that helped me a lot really early on working for a winery. You know, had I ever gone on a sales mission to Montreal before, you know, I was 25 years old. No, of course not. And it was such an eye-opening experience. And I highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to, you know, volunteer for a heavier workload, do it. Absolutely. You know, from transitioning from the winery life over to, you know, catering, I essentially developed most of the positions that I was in by taking on more, bringing, you know, some creative solutions to the table, being a team player. As long as you're always willing to, you know, be part of the team and help the company succeed at the end of the day, your contributions will be really valuable, not just to your team, but to yourself professionally and personally as well.
Yeah, I agree. For someone who's done co-ops as well, I find sometimes, and this is going to be applied not just to co-ops, but to anything. I find some of the best times is when you learn is when you just do get thrown in the fire and you kind of have to, you know, like some of the panelists have mentioned, like adaptation has been
Absolutely.
the past 2 years and forward has been so big. So yeah, 100%. So we're getting back to some of the general questions now. Well, we'll just pick a lead and then we'll have all the panelists chime in. So what do you like about your work and what do you dislike? So one thing that you kind of, you know, you look forward to and something you kind of maybe perhaps dread about kind of the tourism industry and kind of your job. So we'll start here with Geoff and we'll work our way through.
Hello again. All right. So what I enjoy about my position most of all would probably be my flexibility with my schedule. I'm kind of just like can pick where I can talk to people, how I can communicate, and how we can work towards the same goal, trying to meet results. So the other thing is like the measurability of all the metrics that we get measured on. Basically, you can see right down to the day, the hour, what the rest of the Tim Horton franchises are doing. So it's really you can work towards goals really easily because it's so well measured. And when you see positive measurement, you feel really good about yourself anyways. But and then the other thing, of course, is like the hands-on daily interactions with the guests coming in. You get to really know them as friends and how what their lives are like. They're always telling you stories. Sometimes they make your days and sometimes you make their days. And then the guests and just making the community and building the culture. And then, I mean, one thing that you should always look at when you're joining into a business is, you know, what work perks does this business give you? And for me, I haven't paid for coffee since I started. I drink a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of tea. They have some good food. So, you know, that's a benefit there too. There's performance incentives. But one thing that I always wanted to do was like, I worked at a gym as well. And one of the main perks of that gym was I got to use the basketball court whenever I wanted to. And that was a huge perk for me because it was really hard to find gym time at the time. And I really wanted to play basketball. And I worked there. I made some money, but I got to spend a ton of time in the gym working on my other craft, my other interest. And then the dislikes, I mean, top of the list has to be like firing someone that you've gotten close with. This has happened a couple times to me. And, you know, it's tough because they put you in a tough position, but everyone else in the business is kind of like watching what you're going to do. and they know, you know, you might be close with this person. Are you going to let them off the hook, or are you going to do the best thing for the business? Because if you do let them off the hook, then it just, you know, kind of spirals out of control. They will do it, and then, you know, they take it as like a easement that everyone can do it. So it's really difficult in that sense. The other thing is there's so many different pieces of information coming at you that it's easy to get overwhelmed. During COVID, there was a day where, you know, we had exposure in the restaurant, and we had more than half the team out isolating for, at the time it was 2 weeks. So we didn't want to close down, but we only had like 8 people to be open 24/7. So it was really, we had to reduce hours, but we made it happen. We would just drive through only, but you work for like 18 to 20 days straight, long hours, and just, you know, so those are challenging moments, but at the end of the day, you know, time heals all, and we're stronger as a business after. And we made money, and actually our labor percentage was quite low during that time. So definitely more pros than cons in my position, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The flexibility, the free coffee isn't too bad. Also, Geoff Doane, 5-year UPI men's basketball alum. Don't know if everyone knows that, but that's a true story.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll go right to Jennifer right now. So Jennifer, you'd like to chime in on that. So maybe one thing that you like and dislike.
I think that the thing that I like the most is when I see the fans get really excited. So seeing an arena full of hockey fans and watching their favorite player, or that whole experience, and being able to see them do that live now again is definitely top of the list. Live events, definitely my favorite part of the industry I work in. And I think it's because every experience is different, and you're watching people create memories around the event and what that impact is. And it gives me more creative ideas on how we can do something differently next time around, or how can we improve the guest experience when they come back the next time. The thing that I probably dislike the most is we bid for an event, or we look to host a major event, and it's a very long planning cycle. So it starts with the idea that you want to host Canada Games, and that could be a 5-year process. And then you get down to the last 2 years, and more players come to the table, and more volunteers, more stakeholders. The team becomes larger, stronger, and everything that you've worked so hard for, the adrenaline gets higher, and then the event is over. And the next day there's this real lull. Your life's been consumed by it. For Scotty's in particular, it was a 2-year process for us. And when I worked in Center 200 in Cape Breton, and it was tough it's hard to walk away after spending all that time with everyone and working on delivering a very exceptional event, and then saying goodbye to them at the end of that, and then starting the track again on, okay, what event are we going to do next? That sometimes those lows are it's hard. It's definitely hard. So I'd say that's probably just one of on each side. That I love it in general. I love everything that I do, but there's always those moments where you think, okay, could we have done that a little bit differently? And how would that have impacted the guest or the athlete or the fan? And where do we go from here? Yeah,
I agree. And you mentioned something about like fans getting excited for live events. I think everybody's excited for live events. You know what I mean? Like the organizing committee as well. Fans, I think, like myself as an athlete as well. Like I was excited for live events and stuff like that. Like they get up for it too as well. So I think it all plays a part in it. I think every organization has kind of its ups and downs and reflection pieces that kind of lead them to go different directions. Mike, would you like to add to this one?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting question. It's not one that I've really given a whole lot of thought to. Type of business, again, depending on the scale of a business that you're in, number of team members that you're dealing with. I mean, there's quite a range here. Ours is a family-run business. We probably have about, peak of the season, about 23, 24 people on staff. So that means that your core group is doing a lot of quite varied tasks. So you may have certain things that you're doing that, certain activities that are certainly really enjoyable and fun. And might be other activities that you have to do that are part of the business course that maybe are not so enjoyable, not so much fun, but they still have to be done. They're important parts of the business. And of course, being in a smaller business, you don't get to say, well, I'm only going to do HR, or I'm only going to do marketing, or I'm only going to do sales. You're doing a multitude of these different things. I think it's great that you've got a variety of people here on the panel today, kind of give you that exposure, because if you have certain things that you really want to focus on and only want to do, and the only thing that makes you happy, maybe the place for you is in a larger organization where that's what you can do. But if you're a person who thrives on challenges, and even though they're hard, they're difficult, and maybe you don't like to do it, but that drives you, that really gives you something to go forward on, maybe a smaller operation. So to get back to what I like, what I don't like, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of things that we really love. I love the fact that I didn't have to go away to work. We created a job here. We created employment. I've got friends and family, people that have worked for us over the years. They've gone on now over the course of time and have gone on to great careers themselves. And we were part of that. And that's really important. We helped to grow an industry here. That's something really that is exciting. We're happy, and we're continuing to do it. Even throughout COVID, I sat on the provincial or the Premier's Advisory Committee here, which really helped to spearhead an opening plan for Newfoundland, which helped a lot of our other partner organizations in the province being able to open for 2021. So that, those really make me happy. But at the same time, there's a lot of these things. It's a love-hate relationship. They can really frustrate you too. I would have to say probably the one thing that I dislike the most is if I have to deal with somebody, oftentimes government related, because we do deal with a number of government agencies, somebody who I guess doesn't have, somebody who really doesn't have the understanding of the background or the ability to deal with the situation. Sometimes they're just doing a job, and you can see that they're doing a job, and it's frustrating because they know the job they're doing is not benefiting your organization or things in general. We've come across that a few times. That can be really disheartening. To Geoff's one, having to fire somebody. Thankfully, we haven't had to do that very often. In almost 40 years, most of our staff, we have a very low turnover because they really enjoy it. We try to provide a good working environment for them. The ones that we have had that have moved on have typically because they've gone on to permanent year-round full-time employment and moved on, and we certainly encourage it. There's a tremendous amount of things that you really enjoy. I like the fact that I've had my family who I work with my family, and now I've got my kids have been able to come up through, and they've been able to experience it as well. So that's been very, very rewarding. But again, that's because of the type of operation that we have. It's a small family-run business, and we're able to do that and integrate them. If you're in a large, working for the Marriott or somebody, it might be a little harder to bring your kids into work and get them a spot. But again, it is an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You being able to create something kind of like where you go, where you guys are at, and be able to stay home and kind of thrive through that and bring it up through the roots is really good stuff. We'll go to Kylie, and then I think we will have time for maybe one more quick question. So Kylie, you like that?
Yeah. So InnVest Hotels, our headquarters is located in Toronto. And because there are a large portion of the team that work from head office, one of the things that I love the most about our company, I mean, obviously we're nationwide, but there is so much cultural diversity within InnVest Hotels, and everybody has such a unique skill set. So I really feel like I am never at a loss for, someone I can reach out to quickly for, a resource of some kind, or I have a question. Our departments are so reliant on helping each other succeed, that despite the fact that I work at home by myself, I never feel like I'm on an island. I am connected to the whole team at all times, which is just an incredible feeling. Coming from, a lot of jobs where I had to wear all of the hats by myself all of the time, to feel like I have a team that I can rely on and that I'm part of, it's a very rewarding part of my job. I'd say that the thing that I love the most about my position, though, is that I help all of the properties drive traffic to their properties with the digital content that I create, whether it's a Facebook post or a flyer to help them promote, or an email banner to promote, a shopping and stay package or anything like that. There is such a sigh of relief from each of the properties when you provide them with that material, because it's just one more thing that they don't have to worry about getting done on their own. So that's always really nice. For dislikes, it's like the good definitely outweighs the bad, I would say, that's for sure. For me, we have like I said, we've got a lot of properties across the country. Certain hotels are located very rurally, which means that sometimes they have a difficult time with production. They have a hard time retaining staff because there's just not enough bodies in the community who are interested in, taking on those jobs. So to see some of our properties struggle is really difficult, because it doesn't matter how many Facebook posts you send their way, it's not going to help at the end of the day. So just to see some of our locations that are struggling is difficult. But one location having a hard time, it impacts the entire company. We all want to make sure everyone's doing well. So yeah, that's kind of that.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Yeah, I think the fact that you're able to be in kind of like a large organization and be at home and still feel kind of connected and have that communication to all your departments and stuff like that, I think that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable to do your job as well. So I think that's a really good thing as well. So I think we'll have time for one more quick question. We'll go to try and get through this one. So just would be one piece of advice that you would give to tourism students, or any students for that matter, after graduating and going into the work field. What advice do you have for them? And is there any kind of tips or kind of tricks of the trade that you think they should abide by or kind of take to heart? We'll go with Jennifer to start out.
You always like to start with me. This is good.
Yeah, no, sure.
It's all good. I think if of all the things that we talked about today and the experiences from each of the panelists, I think that if you could absorb that and look at how you could adapt that going forward in what you would like to do, whether it's working for a hotel, whether it's working, starting your own business, whether it's a small team of 2 or you're working in a team of 40, opening a restaurant, opening a Tim Hortons, or working on the front line for a number of years, so you understand that, how to learn all those individual roles within an organization, I think is really key. When I went to work for Walt Disney World, I was at the parks and they moved us around, and we didn't stay in one position for a long period of time. And that was so that we would, one, step outside our comfort zone, but also see it from a guest experience point of view, but then also the employee's experience. And so I think that's really key, is that it's about what's the level of experience that you receive or that you're prepared to be a part of. And you're a part of a show, whether it's on the front line in Tim Hortons and you're going through the drive-through, or you're in the restaurant, or you're in one of the hotels. I worked for Marriott Hotels and the Millennium Hotels, and the guest experience starts from the moment they make the reservation. And that's really key, because that whole showcase of that experience along the way is remembered. And then they tell everybody and they share the story, and that becomes the memory. And I think also that's equally perhaps why, the tour company, that Mike and family, that's family orientated. I would love to know that as a part of that experience, what are the stories and lives that they touched as a result of being in Newfoundland and being a part of that experience. And so I think it's really important piece of, it's not about the textbook necessarily, but it's about what can you offer and be a part of that experience and recognize that you'll stand out because of it. I genuinely believe that as a result of all those individual experiences. I did the co-op as well when I was a part of Mount St. Vincent, and loved every second of it. I was in 4 different locations. I was with 4 different teams, 4 different leaders, and I learned as much as I could so that I could decide where I wanted to go next and what area of the industry I wanted to work in. And I was very fortunate to get a position at Walt Disney World. And from there, I was able to get a position at Disney Cruise Lines. And then from there, I was able to travel around the world. And then I went to work in the United Kingdom. And so I got to experience that and work in the hotel industry there. And along the way, the principles were still the same. The core values, the experience, the what you can offer as part of that team, and adaptability, flexibility, like Mike said earlier, change is constant in the tourism industry. It's how we evolve and how we become, we innovate to drive and deliver a better guest experience. So for me, that's always been the key thing is how can we deliver a better guest experience for both sides, the people who deliver the experience and the guest who receives it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's relative through a bunch of different factors. Like I'm a public relations student myself at the Mount, but my job actually I'm a bartender. So one of the things that we say, so in the service industry, one of the things that we say, they come for the drinks, they'll come back for the hospitality. You know what I mean? Just saying, they'll come for what you're selling, that being said, but they're going to return and they're going to remember you for what you've provided, what service you provided them. So I think that's a really cool factor. I think we'll flip over to Kylie, the Mount grad. Well, if coming out of the Mount, is there anything advice you would give Mount grads?
I have lots. For me, what was really important is that my resume stood out. So if you have the opportunity to snoop around online, go find some resumes that you think might be a good fit for your personality. Don't be scared to put your picture on a resume. That is totally normal now. So, cater the color scheme, do your thing, familiarize yourself with how to use Canva. It's so easy, and you can just make yourself a resume that's really professional looking and that will stand out in a pile. That was really important to me, especially, moving to an area that I knew was flooded with a lot of people who had maybe a similar skill set or a similar education. So the resume was a big one. I say yes to opportunities to network, say yes to an invitation to someone on LinkedIn, say yes to being on a career panel, say yes because you'll never regret that. And that also goes for, taking on an additional workload to, improve your skill set, etc. Say yes to the webinar, say yes to, whatever opportunity you have to grow your skill set, say yes. And then one of the things that I really enjoy is looking back on each of my roles and thinking to myself, okay, well, what was my legacy in that position? What did I bring to the table? What did I leave that company with? Did I establish virtual wine tastings for that winery? Yes, I did. Did I, help put on an oyster festival for 4 years running? Yes, I did. What was my contribution? Really think about that and be intentional with each of the positions that you're in, because you'll want to look back and feel, pleased with yourself and the job that you did and how much you contributed. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think keeping tabs on what you've done, keeping that kind of like ongoing portfolio, I think is important.
Yeah,
also, I like to use like you're talking about your just say yes, kind of be a yes man. I like to use the sponge theory. You know what I mean? Just be a sponge, and whenever you can soak up a little bit. So we'll head over to Mike now. If Mike would like to add any bit of that advice for graduates going into the tourism industry or in any industry.
Yeah, a lot of good hints here. I would think perhaps the couple of key points that I bring to anybody who's doing the program now. You're doing your program now, but education is something that's going to be continued throughout your lifetime. So don't think now that you've done 2 or 3 year program, that's it, you're set for life, that's all you're going to do. and the doors are all just magically open. No, you've got to be prepared for continuing education. Even now, almost 40 years into this, I'm still sitting in here in front of Google AdWords, every time they change the interface, trying to familiarize myself with it and everything else. You have to learn. You have to be prepared to learn. You have to be, again, it goes back to that being adaptable. Kylie's point about saying yes, that's important, very important as well. Being prepared to accept these challenges and opportunities, because if it's a challenge, it does become an opportunity at some point in time. I think one of the really important things as you start to go out into the world of work is to be honest with yourself about what your strengths and weaknesses are. Very, very important, because nothing is going to tick anybody off more than what going into a job or into a role and saying that you can do something, and then they get in there and they find out, no, really you can't. We've had that experience in the past with some people, and that's frustrating for everybody because it just does not create a good environment. So be honest. Know your. I don't want to say know your limitations, but yes, you need to know your limitations. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, if you're not, that person who has to be the life of the party and be outgoing, well, maybe you're not in the front of the house role, but there are many valuable roles within the organization. I mean, and we have that in our organization. We have people that they're at the forefront and they're personable, they're hospitable, they're the life of the party. Would I have them in the back office doing the accounting? No, that's not their role in the organization, but there is a role for everybody. But again, it's knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. And if you acknowledge that, it's an opportunity then to try and work on how you can improve that or how you can overcome it. Or also, you don't want to get into a position where, if you're weak in an area, that's a big part of the job, because that's only going to add stress to you, which doesn't help anybody. Save yourself the stress. If it's something you don't like, you really don't enjoy doing, find something that you do. Life is too short.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of that self-evaluation at first, I think, is important. And it's not to say that you won't eventually be good at something, or you might not, excel in, one thing eventually, but you'll definitely probably find a lot bigger fulfillment and a lot bigger role in the stuff that you are good at and the stuff that you are able to put your focus at.
The one thing I would add to that, though, is also, having said all of that, do not be afraid to move out of your comfort zone.
For sure. Absolutely.
It's a bit of a balancing act. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Correct. Understood. And yeah, we'll just wrap things up with Geoff. Geoff, I don't believe your microphone's on in there.
There you go. I'm muted. I just want to say thanks for the invite. I got the invite from Maria Matthews, and kind of what Kylie was saying. Say yes to different opportunities. Like, you might not see the initial reward, but I mean, it's a learning opportunity. You get to collaborate with different panelists. Just say yes. Yeah. And then also what Mike was saying, he said, like, do something you like. Learning doesn't stop. Like, just because you're out of university, like, there's so many different things you can learn. Like, you cannot learn everything that there is. Like, you can't. So spend a lot of your time during the day trying to learn a new skill. Like, jump on Duolingo, try and learn a new language. It comes down to personal development. Like, how are you using your time? So what I would do is I would sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, and I would make a detailed list of everything that you value. So, like, first should be family for everyone. Family should be first. And then for me, it goes Tim Hortons and basketball side by side. My absolute favorite hobby, passionate hobby. And then, my lifestyle, my family business that I care about a lot. Right. And then you should have maybe like 4 or 5 other things that you really care about. And you should, every single day, you should try and win your day by having those values in your plan. So Yeah, so when your daily activities reflect your governing values, you experience inner peace. And then consistent daily planning leverages time. And like, we're all here for a certain amount of time. You might as well make the most of it, right? Do what you love, do what you enjoy. You know, there's tons of opportunities out there. There's people making money online, doing NFTs or Bitcoin or whatever, you know, like there's just so many new opportunities. So just like, make sure your lifestyle, it's not just like, we're not just here just to work. Make sure your lifestyle is like awesome, what you love doing. Like, I make sure I'm playing basketball almost every single day. I make sure I'm sailing in the summer, and I make sure that, you know, I'm spending as much time with my family as I can. And that's the true meaning. Like, it's good to have a good career and be successful in the career side of things. But like, at the end of the day, you just need to live your best life, right? So get a list and do some planning.
Yeah, I think that's super important, Geoff. The values and stuff like that, and you know, making sure that you live according to your values. I think during that plan, goal setting is a great thing to do as well. Just setting like little goals, trying to reach them along the way. And yeah, I think you're right about like your personal life as well. I think if you have a balanced personal life, or you're content in your personal life, I think you're more likely to be more productive or effective in your professional life. So I think that can really help you kind of make a push and make you make you more productive at the times that you are at work, if you know you're happy and content when you're not there. So
do you mind if I just add one thing, Jacob?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I would just say to become comfortable with the word no. You will be told no 5 times to the one yes you're going to get, whether it's for a job you've applied to that is your dream job, it's on your vision board and you don't get it, to constantly, you know, coming to your boss with a creative idea. They're not into it for months. And then all of a sudden it's going to click for you. Like, you just have to be comfortable with no, because eventually the one yes that you're going to get will just shoot your confidence back up. So don't stop trying, just keep going.
Yeah, it's the weird scale. It's say yes to everything and get used to hearing no to a lot of stuff. So as well. So no, yeah, absolutely, I agree. So before we officially conclude, if all the panels are ready, before we officially conclude today's panel, I'd like to announce that Tuesday, April 5th at 6 p.m., the Tourism Education Alliance of the Maritimes, TEAM is the acronym, so it brings the 7th annual evening in support of the Mount St. Vincent University Tourism and Hospitality Management Program. Funds raised at this event will contribute to program enhancements, recognize student achievements, supporting student financial needs, and providing students with an opportunity for professional development. For more details, if you want, you can email pr@tourismeducation.ca. So on behalf of Mount St. Vincent University Department of Business and Tourism, we would like to thank all of our panelists today for being a part of our 2022 Winter Career Week. To give you guys all like a little wave goodbye. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Connecting with students with this industry helps us a lot and is a win-win for everyone. So you guys coming in and sharing your experiences and sharing, you know, stuff that we could find helpful when we're into the workplace is really a second to none experience. So we thank you guys very much. We thank you guys for coming in, and we thank all of the participants in today's meeting and everything for listening in. So thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. And
thanks for having us.
Day.
Thanks for having us. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks, guys, and good luck. And to Geoff, if you see John Campbell, you're going to have to give him a coffee from me.
Bye, Jen.
John Campbell.
Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We really appreciate it. I can't seem to get my camera back on, but here we go. There we are. Yep, thank you.
Really sorry I was late.
Don't worry, Kylie, those things happen. We're really happy that you could join us.
Thank you.
It was really great to see you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.